It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Jeff Jarvis has the week off. Don't worry, though. Ron Amadio's here from the amazing Ars Technica. Mike Elgin from TNT. We're going to talk about the latest Google news. We'll unbox Jason Howell's 6P, a nice aluminum model looking pretty sharp. We'll also talk about the demise of Grantland, the end of National Geographic, and news online, plus Facebook's quarterly results. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 325, recorded Wednesday, November 4th, 2015. Back in BlackBerry. This Week in Google is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit BraintreePayments.com/twig. And by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting Casper.com/twig and using the promo code TWIG. And by Lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/twig. That's LYNDA.com/TWIG. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show where we cover the latest, but not just from Google, from the cloud, from social media, Facebook and Twitter. Joining us from Ars Technica, Ron Amadio. He's the Android guy over there. Great to have you joining us, Ron. We love having you on.
Great to be here. Thanks.
And Mike Elgin is also here, sitting next to me from Tech News Today. Jeff Jarvis has the week off. He's actually traveling for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, next 2 weeks. For a change, he decided to travel.
No. He just, for some reason, usually when he travels, like last week, we were able to get him on from his wherever he was, but I guess he's in the air or something like that this week. Gina Trapani will be with us next week, filling in for Mr. Jarvis. Yay! So it's not Crandroid. We got all head up. Hiroshi Lockheimer says, no, we're not getting rid of. Well, actually, though, if you compare what Lockheimer said to the original Wall Street Journal story, it's pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not like it wasn't. It was kind of a non-denial denial.
Before we wind up Ron and turn him loose on this topic, I have a prepared statement, which is that I'm really confused about what this is going to look like. The combined, or they basically, Google gently hinted that there would be the best of Chrome OS and Android would be combined into a new operating system. I don't know what that means. Ron, what could that possibly, like, what does Android need that Chrome OS has and vice versa?
Well, the biggest thing that the report said is that Android's going to run on PCs now, and I think that's probably the most important thing here. Like, a lot of people have been worried, like, oh, what's going to happen to Chrome OS? And it's like, Chrome OS is going to hang around. Like the Wall Street Journal report says right in it that Chrome OS will remain an open source operating system, and that other companies can use to make laptops, and Google engineers will continue maintaining it. However, Google's focus will be on extending Android to run on laptops. That's from the Wall Street Journal report. So it jives with what Google's saying, but I think Chrome OS will end up being like the old operating system from Google, and it'll hang around and get security updates, but all the feature stuff all the exciting things will come from this merged operating system. And I think so. Android would need a completely new interface. What's there right now for tablets is horrible with a mouse and keyboard. There's been a few like janky Android laptops you can buy. I think the HP Slatebook 14 or something was one of the latest ones. You'll need a whole new interface. You'll need like a windowing support, so you can have apps on top of apps and all that stuff third parties are going to need to make desktop apps, which is going to be super hard because they can't even get third parties to make tablet apps, or Google to make tablet apps for that matter. And that's like the exciting thing. There's going to be so much that's going to need to change about Android. And if you look at the time frame they gave on this, they said it started 2 years ago and won't be out until 2017. So this is going to end up being like a 3 to 4 year project inside of Google, which sounds like a really big deal.
I have a couple of theories about this. And actually, I'm trying to show you, and I will show you a little later on, the AMI version of Android running on Windows, which is really full Android. It pretty much works just like Android. And it's not a great experience because it's on a giant screen. Android,
Right.
Clearly a lot has to be done. I can't show you right now. The Surface Book is locked up, of course.
Gotcha.
But I will show
like
you.
Frozen?
No, you know what? This is a great laptop, this Windows laptop, but the problem is if you do what I did, which is before I logged in, I tried to remove the screen, and it's completely confused. It doesn't know where it's getting its input from. It doesn't know what's going on. I can't do anything. I can't even type anyway. So I'll reset it. It's not, you know what? This is actually the whole class of problems that come with this. Yeah, see, it's not accepting input. Happen because of the detachment. You know, if they didn't detach, but it gets confused. The video driver crashes. The keyboard has apparently stopped working. The mouse is flunky, and all of that because I think it's a hard handoff.
The user needs a certain level of detachment to use this device.
No, because you just don't do what I just did, which was detach it before I'd fully logged in and set
You're
it up.
detaching it wrong.
I'm detaching it wrong. I detached it prematurely. So we'll just put that away and let it think for a while. But I used it all last night, Android on Windows, and it's not a great experience because it's just not designed for a large, and you know, it feels weird. And I really would be sad, and I think you agree with me, if Chromebook went away. I think Chromebook is awesome.
I would be super sad.
You're using one.
I'm using one here, and of course the touch screen versions of the implementation of Chrome OS, like the Chrome bases and the Chromebooks and so on. That's a terrible implementation too.
I
You're
like
poking
my
around.
touch pixel though.
Well, but it's the interface is not designed for it. So you're poking at file menus
Right.
and then it's dropping down, and
Right.
it's kind of a workaround. That's why I agree with you completely. I would like to see the Chrome OS continue ad infinitum, and in fact I think Google would be crazy, and they seem to agree, to kill it because of course they're killing it in education. They're just kicking butt in education.
One of the questions that I have about what Lochheimer said, which is that just really to preserve another year of sales for Chromebooks? And is that really Google's strategy? I mean, it would be a mistake at this point for Google to say, oh yeah, 2 years, no more Chromebooks, because like you say, this is a big business for them now, especially in schools and education,
I could
as it should be.
Yeah, I can argue it both ways. So here's the argument in favor of killing Chrome OS. Lately, you may have noticed that Google is really emphasizing the products and services that they have that have massive scale.
Right.
And so have they been acquiring things? No. There was a while where they were acquiring a company a week.
Right.
And when was their last acquisition? They're really slowing down on
This was
acquisitions.
the slowest year since 2009, I think, for acquisitions.
Absolutely. And they seem to be just really phasing out all the small things and doubling down on the big things. And here they have two operating systems. One is the biggest operating system in the history of mankind, and the other one's it's pretty tiny by big operating system standards in terms of numbers. And so there's an argument to be said that says, okay, let's just double down on the gigantic one and make it even more gigantic. Now, here's the argument in the other direction. There's no downside to them getting everybody using the Chrome OS, Chrome plugins. It gets people on the internet. It's very secure. It's great for implementing at scale. You can essentially manage a huge number of Chromebooks centrally. So it's a very appealing solution for lots and lots of people, and there's just no reason for them to kill it. They can go ahead and integrate elements of Chrome OS into Android without touching, that should have no impact on the existing base of Chrome OS users. So it's really hard to tell. I think that they're playing it straight. I think they're going to continue Chrome OS, and I don't think that's just wishful thinking on my part. I think they're actually going to keep Chrome OS going indefinitely and keep trying to grow it.
But Ron, what's weird to me is the Wall Street Journal quote is, we're going to fold Chrome OS into Android, which from a market point of view makes sense. You take the little one, you fold into the big one, but from a user point of view makes less sense. I wouldn't mind seeing, in fact, I would welcome a Chromebook with the ability to run Android apps, and that's something we know Google's working on publicly.
Yeah, that's in beta. I think this report kind of says that they're going to go in the complete opposite direction. That was Android apps on top of Chrome OS, like using Chrome OS as a base. This report says they're going to start using Android as a base, and it makes sense, I think, because that's, like Mike said, they want to do the scale thing, and Android is definitely not a worthy replacement for Chrome OS today. But I think because you have to keep in mind that because it's a 3 to 4 year project,
right,
you're going to see Android change a whole lot in order to take over this PC spot. And, Chrome OS will stick around, but this is going to put Android directly in competition with Chrome OS. I think it'll be a lot like when Microsoft comes out with a new version of Windows, Windows 7 and 8 are still for sale today, but so is Windows 10. And nobody, you can go out and buy 7 and 8, but they're not the future. The future for Microsoft is Windows 10. And I think when this hybrid OS comes out, you'll be able to get the older stuff, but they won't be the future. All the development is going to happen on this new version, which makes total sense. I think a big part of it, besides scale, is they want to get Google Play on every device imaginable, because that's become like a core strength of Google, where they have all these developers and all these apps and all of these development tools specifically for Android and the Google Play ecosystem, and Chrome OS does not integrate with any of that at all, really.
I think the problem is we're kind of thinking of a computer running Android as we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's really what we're talking about. I mean, certainly, how many Chrome extensions are there? Hundreds, thousands, maybe.
Yeah.
How many Android apps are there? 1 million.
Yeah.
Including Chrome. So if you took, a couple of things I really like about Chrome OS, the security of the platform is huge. And it's very different from the security of Android. It's a very different kind of platform.
Yeah, and in fact, I've said, much to the chagrin of some Android fans, that I think that pretty much Chrome OS is probably the most secure,
easily
significant operating system, and Android is
easily
arguably the least. A Cambridge study a couple of weeks ago found that 87.7% of Android implementations are currently running one of 11 known massive security vulnerabilities. It's a big problem, and it's associated with the fact that the OEMs that make the phones are in charge of the updates, essentially. And they range from Google itself for the Nexus phones, which is the best, but not even they're not super great compared to, say, iOS, to, who knows, there are 1,000 companies that make Android phones. And most of them are in China, but the average Android phone is incredibly insecure. And so I don't know how you marry the two unless you basically have Android apps running on Chrome OS. Then you'd have a secure, but then I don't know what that is. I can't picture that.
Again, it sounds like that's not what they're...
Or you rebuild Android from the ground up with Chrome in mind. That's what I kind of hope comes out of this, is because Google knows, obviously, everybody knows, Google, one of Android's biggest enemies right now is the fractured update system and the state of updates across multiple devices. The way Android is designed right now, that is incredibly difficult to do. And then you bring in the carriers into the whole scene, and then it becomes even more complicated. If Google focuses on rebuilding Android from the ground up, integrating the things that work for Chrome, which, by the way, has an amazing update strategy, and they're able to execute on that the way that they should be with Android, then maybe they solve some of the underlying issues in the OS along the way and make it so that, aside from any of those other roadblocks and interferences, they can still update things like security and just the OS in general without having to bring other parties into the situation.
So would this future Android be a cloud-only product? Because that would be really interesting.
That would be. Hey,
No, I think if you're going to do this big change with Android and Chrome OS, I think like Jason said, you do take the opportunity to say, let's do this right and let's do a ground up rethink of the operating system. I think the thing that would fix the most problems is if they defined some kind of platform on ARM chips, like an analog to a PC BIOS, where it's like there's this layer of there's this layer that makes the hardware communicate with the software, and it's super basic. And the hardware makers write to this, and Google will write to this, and then everything can talk to everything else, like just like the way the PC BIOS works. I mean, on that you can take Windows and install it on pretty much anything, or without an operating system at all, you'll still be able to do input and get a picture on there and all that stuff, so that you can like install an operating system.
Well, and Android is best suited to that because it's running on the Java virtual machine, which is already ported to every possible hardware platform.
Yeah, but I mean, Microsoft did this with Windows Mobile. They kind of defined a platform and said everybody has to write for this. And ARM's kind of making like a BIOS style thing for ARM server chips. And you've got to hope that by the time 2017 rolls around, they've brought this back down to phones, and everybody can kind of write to that. And then I think the other big problem is the ecosystem partners more than anything. And I think when you do this big merge, you say, hey, these are the new rules now, and this is kind of a new product, and we're kind of starting over with what you guys think you can do, and we need to be in charge of updates now. Google has to say that we're in charge of updates now, and maybe they could make some kind of skin system for OEMs to use that doesn't touch the base operating system. But I really think they need to just rethink things from the ground up, because everybody has to do that at some point. We saw Windows do it with XP when they dumped Windows 98 or the MS-DOS base like 9X code base for XP, and Apple did it with OS 10 when they switched to a Unix operating system. And every operating system has to do this at some point.
You want to see the world's biggest Android device?
The Samsung.
I detached. No, this is the Surface.
the other.
This is the Surface Book, and I detached the screen, so it is a little bit more like Android. It's running the launcher that I use, which is Nova Launcher. Maybe it doesn't like the vertical orientation. Oh yeah, I guess it was about to do that. Hold on a second. This is running in emulation, by the way. This is
well,
no. That's how the AMI. I believe that's how the AMI Android works. But this is Android. I mean, it's palpably Android. You can see the widgets are swamped by the screen size and so forth. You know what's really great?
The icons are tiny.
Yeah, and that's why the pen is really helping. I mean, all of that you could fix. That's just because this is a pure port of AOSP Android. You even have to go out and get the Google services and the apps. You know what's great for is gaming.
Yeah.
This is awesome, especially because game developers have to develop for an environment where you don't know what the resolution is going to be, and it could be as high as 3,000 by 2,000. Right. So this is developed for that, and it actually works fairly well. You can see a little hesitation in the graphics display, but not a whole lot. The sound works.
Knowing that that's like a 3K screen is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean they're pushing a lot of pixels on here. As I said, in emulation. This is not, going directly to the x86 architecture. By the way, ARM versus x86. The nice thing, both Chromebooks and Android can run on both, so I don't think that's an issue.
Yep.
I wonder if there are issues with AOSP, with the open source. It certainly would help Google to be able to get away from that, right? That's the problem with updating, is that anybody can develop a, quote, Android version. I think you abandon the Android. You might even abandon the Android trademark for that reason.
I had heard internally the code name for this was Google OS.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
That's what. Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, I don't know if they want to rebrand and lose all the cute little Android figures and all that, but I think if you did some kind of rebrand like that, you could definitely go to partners and say, hey, those were the Android rules, and these are the Google OS rules, and the Google OS rules say you don't get to mess with anything, and we're going to do updates, because every new Google platform is like that. Even the new Android platforms are like that. OEMs can't mess with Google TV or I mean, they can't mess with Android TV or Android Wear or Android Auto. All of that, the interface is off limits, and you've got to run it and just build some hardware, and you can preload apps on it, but that's it.
Look how good that looks. I mean, that
Looks great, yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
And what you're describing, Ron, of course, the OEMs don't like that, but users do. Users love vanilla Android. Tend to prefer.
Yeah, and I think they started that to spur adoption, and at this point, the mobile OS duopoly is so strong that Google could do whatever they wanted, and no one can say no to them because there is no alternative. It's not like you can go license iOS, and if it's not iOS or Android, nobody's going to want it. Like even BlackBerry has fallen at this point.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that because their phone's coming out next week, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Friday?
the Priv.
Something.
The Priv.
The Priv, yeah.
Or the
Yep, it's
Perv.
super-
What a terrible name.
Priv.
Priv.
Yeah. But hey, the name is dumb, but I'm super excited about it.
Look at this as Google Plus looks like Pinterest when you screen that big, huh?
That's your standard awful tablet interface for Android.
Yeah.
So Android.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? It's not on a big screen. You're getting nobody, as you said at the very beginning, Ron. Even Google doesn't support this.
Yeah, I mean, Android supports, like you said, it supports x86 and ARM, so that's good for PCs. It supports mouse and keyboard and gamepad. Like you can take USB stuff and plug it into Android, and Android will figure it out and work, and you'll get a mouse cursor. It's really impressive, actually. They're just going to need a whole new interface and all new apps. There's actually a thing called Remix. Is it Remix OS? That takes Android and kind of turns it into a desktop operating system. It's a third-party project, but the interface is interesting. It kind of shows you what a windowed version of Android would look like.
Yeah, and that Remix OS is at jide.com, JIDE.com.
Okay, yeah.
So what if so Chrome OS is this, right? It's Chrome.
Yeah.
Now this is Chrome running on Android, but and you can't do most Chrome extensions on the Android version of Chrome.
No extensions at all.
But what if you could? How would that be significantly different? I mean, then now you
windowed. I mean, you don't really have a windowed experience in Android at the moment.
Unless you had a Chrome extension that gave it to you.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but wasn't windowing in? I mean, didn't we see it in some code?
You're talking about multi-screen.
Android M had a beta version of it.
And they just didn't implement it, right?
But that was really not appropriate for a mouse and keyboard. That was kind of like what's on iOS, where you can, or Windows, the tablet version of Windows. You know, you can drag apps to the side of the screen and it'll lock to. It's split screen. It's not windowed. There's a big difference.
Right. Right. Although that's the new thing, by the way, is not. It's so funny because it brings back the debate that happened in the very earliest days of graphical user interfaces. Should we be tiled, or should we be overlapping windows? And there was really like battle to the death.
Yeah.
And overlapping windows obviously won.
Yep.
And I feel like tiled is coming back. Both iOS and the iPad Pro is doing tiled. You're seeing tiled in
OS 10, really, if you do that new split screen thing.
Yeah, and certainly Windows has it with the Snap.
Well, Snap will see. I like Snap because that does, or whatever the thing is on desktop.
It's not overlapping though. Even though you can resize it, it's still not overlapping, and that's the key. That's tiled versus overlapping. Right?
I think what's really changed is you can't assume that anybody has a mouse anymore.
Right.
They may have a touchpad.
Right.
They may not have a touchpad. They may be on a touch interface. You don't know what people are using, but you can't say, oh, they're going to have a mouse.
Right.
And I think that's great. I think the mouse is kind of, it's from the 60s. It's kind of over. And I think we should move on and have interfaces that invite touch and voice and things like that, hybrid interfaces. And I think, that could be part of what Google's thinking about this ground up reorientation. Enough of the icons and the trash cans and that whole metaphor. The WIMP user interface is 6 years old, something like that. I think I'd like to see us just completely go entirely into the post-PC interface.
I have to
world.
say, as bad as this is, just because there was no consideration given to a giant screen like this, it's still better than the touch interface on Windows.
Yeah.
That's actually is a kind of a more sensible. This is Flipboard, the Android version running on a Windows machine, and it actually, if you do touch first, I think you get some benefits that you don't get if you take a desktop OS and you add touch to it. And,
I don't know though. If you want to get work done, I think you pretty much need a mouse. Just stuff like text selection is impossible.
That's
on a
why I
touch
love the Surface Book, because it is the best of both worlds. So I can reattach this, and it becomes a mousing operating system. And I mean, I think that's kind of I got a trackpad, I got a desktop, and I think the flexibility is appealing, and the pen and everything.
Could we see a world where the Chrome OS and Android combination is something similar to that, where when you're in device mode, you're running in Android, which it's kind of native to,
like that,
and then you pop it into the keyboard and boom, you're in Chrome OS.
Isn't that?
I could imagine like a continuum style thing, sure, but I don't think it'll be Chrome OS. I think it'll just be big Android and little Android, like what you see on an Asus pad phone or whatever, but good.
Right.
I think one of the more interesting angles is what Google will do when it has to build. If it does this Android on PCs thing, it's going to have to build a bunch of like PC desktop apps, and Google has never really done that in its history. They've always kind of said, "Oh, just go to this website on the internet," and now they're going to have like a desktop version of Gmail and a desktop version of Google Calendar and all this other stuff.
That's less than ideal, isn't it, from Google's point of view? Because if you're in the cloud, they have access to all your data. I mean, don't they want you to be? Don't they?
Well,
want you
it'll
to
be
in
just
the
like
cloud?
Android. It'll be just like Android, where there's an app that syncs everything to the cloud, and it's just because the interface is there, and you don't have to have browser Chrome and all this other stuff. It's a lot more powerful. But on like mobile, Google, it seems weird to say like Google might abandon the web, but the mobile web where they have mobile apps, for a lot of things, that's absolutely the case. Like you go to a mobile browser and try to go to Gmail or Google Calendar, and you'll get like this super old version that's like 2 or 3 major redesigns old. And some of these things, Google Music and Hangouts, there's just no mobile website at all, and it's just like go to the Play Store, and you wonder what their web selection will be like when they have to make all of these desktop programs. Do they say like, will the desktop Gmail app be the best version of Gmail then?
I don't know. I personally tend to avoid desktop apps. I use a number of different devices, but my main device is a MacBook Pro, and for stuff like Slack and all the social networks and lots and lots of things that have desktop apps for OS X, I just use the browser version. I do it all in browser. I try not to install anything, and I just the Chrome OS is what made me love that idea.
I agree.
And it's just so reassuring to know that no matter what device I go on, whatever I was doing, I can do it in just the same way on the new device. I don't think, oh, I didn't install the so-and-so app.
It's going to come down to how smart Google is. They're in a great position because they have set the time frame as to be a couple of years. And they have the opportunity, having learned a lot now from Chrome OS and from Android, and I hope that they do this, to do something from the ground up that makes sense in the modern context. That's the thing that Microsoft really couldn't do. They did reinvent Windows, but they can't go from the ground up. They've got all this legacy. I think Apple's in the same situation with OS X and iOS. They're really, I think even, at least Microsoft was willing to take a chance. They're really reluctant at this point. They've got a problem. They know they have a problem.
Yeah.
Because usage is changing and how people think of computing is changing. Google probably is in the best, I would submit, what do you think, in the best position right now to do this?
Well, when you look at what they did with OS X and like Windows XP, they didn't abandon their legacy. Mostly they emulated it.
Right. And I'm hoping Google will be willing to do something that's a third thing, is what I'm saying. And do they think they'll have the guts to do that? Say, this is what we've learned with Android. This is what we've learned with Chrome OS. Now, let's start from the ground up, thinking about how usage patterns are going to change over the next 10 years to make a modern OS. Boy, I'd love to see that.
Oh, yeah, but it's still going to be pitched as the new version of Android, regardless of how much the core changes.
Maybe not, because isn't Android polluted by the fact that the AOSP and the name Android is used in a non-Google context by people like Amazon and cheap handset makers all over the world. That's polluted the Android name. Stage fright has polluted the Android name. Maybe this is an opportunity to something. I would expect Google to say, yes,
Like
we're going
a rebrand?
Well, not just a rebrand. Yeah, we're going to maintain AOSP, the open source Android handset. And we've got this new operating system that we control, that we update, that works on all your devices and works in a modern way like you like to work. The question, of course, is will consumers trust Google to do an OS?
You know, the other thing is that Google just doesn't have the fascist sensibility that Apple does. Apple says, here's the thing, you're all going to do it our way. And if you don't do it our way, nothing is going to happen. Right. Google's like, well, you could do this way, you could do that way. Here's another app. Here's that. You know, it's like, but it creates a certain level of confusion for the mass market. So I think that if they strongly differentiate the fascist Google version of Android versus the open source version, that would be good because, you know, if it's a premium OS, I mean, look what they're doing with Android One. They're already in India. They're already loosening the restrictions on what's required for you to use it if you're an OEM in India because they really want adoption. They really want people buying into the Android One platform. And if if the handset makers want to dumb down the specs or whatever to make it cheaper, Google's now saying, yeah, go ahead. You know, if that's an indication of where they're thinking, yeah, we'll go ahead and allow there to be crappy Android phones out in the world. But meanwhile, we've got
mostly because they have no choice.
The ones that we touch are like awesome.
Right.
If that's the general direction, I think that would be fine.
You know what? I think you could make the case, and I bet you have, Jason Howell and All About Android, that really there is now only one good Android phone. It's Nexus, and everybody else should just get out of the. I'm sure Google wouldn't say this out loud, but I think this is the message. You've said this, Ron, haven't you? This is the end. This is it. This is the Android handset.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, from a consumer perspective, sure, Nexus devices are half the price of everything else, and in the past, that's come with big compromises. But the newest ones are great, and they nail pretty much everything you'd want.
There's
on
no
a checklist.
reason to look at Samsung or HTC or LG.
Yeah, there really isn't. But
In
I mean,
fact,
from
Google
Google's
just
perspective,
released information that Samsung's TouchWiz interface added how many 13 new exploits.
Yeah.
Nice job, Samsung.
This OEM software doesn't add anything positive. Like, it slows down your updates, and security gets bad, and it's uglier, and you just don't want it. You just want to stay as far away from that crap as you can.
This is I think the release of this information is at the same time as Nexus phones hit the market is no accident. I think you're going to see more and more from Google saying, don't buy those other Android devices.
You know, and look at the business side of it. Apple by itself makes 92% of the profits in the smartphone industry because they control it all. They make money on the hardware. They make money on the software. They make money on the services. They make money on, picking up a third of all the app revenue. And so that's really the model that turns you into a incredibly, not that Google's wanting
But Google's
for cash,
business model is different, right? Their model is not to sell more phones. Their model is to get you to use Google services everywhere as much as possible.
But the Apple model is even more compelling. Yes, you make money on the services. Yes, you make money on the advertising. Yes, you make money on the licensing. And guess what? You can also make money on the hardware. You can make money on the
funny. This is the argument people had of Apple versus Microsoft.
Yeah.
Would you rather be the software company that licenses software or the hardware company that makes hardware? And for years, you'd rather be Bill Gates. And then all of a sudden, I think you'd rather be Apple.
And look what Microsoft is doing now.
Yeah, they're moving out in the Apple way. We live in interesting times, and I guess what I'm saying is, I hope there's somebody super smart who's sitting down and thinking about, well, what is a computer going to even mean in the next decade? Maybe that's too long a time frame.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys see the tweet from Matias Duarte, Google's VP of Design? He was going to town on Windows 10, saying it looks just like Windows XP did from 10 years ago on Twitter. I thought that was interesting, where it's like at the same time where this Google PC operating system news comes out, their head designer is bashing Windows on Twitter and talking about how old it is.
Well, in fact, that's exactly what Microsoft, I think, did at the behest of its users. They went back and said, yeah, we went too far too fast with Windows 8.1. We're going back a little bit. I'm looking. He tweets a lot, this guy.
On the other hand, look at how Matias Duarte dresses. Look at that coat.
Yeah.
It's
Keep
good
going.
looking.
There we go.
I have
There's
no
the-
beef
there's
with
the
how
good
Windows
stuff.
10 looks. I'm disappointed it works just like XP. I understand that's a feature for many, which it is.
Yep.
It's Microsoft's selling point.
Yep.
Yeah,
So this was the
after
original
Windows
tweet.
8,
Yeah.
they went back to the old school OS. But
But when you think about the computer of the future, for lack of a better term, I think Google's in a great position because they focus on the cloud. The computer of the future is everything. Your house is the computer.
Right.
There are going to be screens everywhere, devices everywhere, some devices with no
You should
screens,
make
Internet
no
of Things.
assumptions about
Right.
form factor at all.
And it's in the cloud. Google now will grow and grow and grow and become this ever-present
Nobody's better
interface.
situated to do that.
Exactly. And so Google's in a great position. They really need to continue to be radical in going into the cloud, getting people,
That's why
everything synced up.
you should be agnostic about hardware and not even get in the hardware business.
Yeah.
And that was the traditional Google model, wasn't it?
Yep.
We don't care what you use as long as you use more Google. We're happy.
Well, but on the other hand, we're talking about Alphabet now. So they've got their,
They have a hardware arm.
under Google they have Nest,
Right.
but then they also have other potential businesses they could launch to make hardware, including cars.
Jason Howell is very kindly given me, not forever, just for this show,
Just for the next 2 years.
his Nexus 6P box. Mine comes tomorrow. They advanced it a little bit. So if you're one of the people who was delivery time November 10th through 17th, there is hope. I'm going to get mine on November 6th instead of that. So, but we'll open this box. And because Jason, he says, well, I already got to open a box. So he's going to let me open his.
a virgin Nexus 6P, never touched by human hands.
Untouched by human, well, except for the child labor that built it.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And don't worry, Leo, you don't have to try and bend it. I already tried.
You can't. And it's just, you
It's
can't.
just
See, you can't bend it.
You
Look at
can't
that.
bend it.
That's-
See, it's all my strength that I
That's
could
like
not bend that
ripping
6P.
a phone book in half. And this is no small, wimpy guy. This is Jason the Rock Howell.
That's what they call me. Never.
Let's take a break. When we come back, more with Ron Amadio from Ars Technica. Great to have you, Ron. Are you at home or at the office?
I am at same thing. Yes.
It's very lovely.
Yeah.
It is. I feel like you're in a Japanese ryokan.
Exactly.
No,
And,
well, you'd be staring into my kitchen and stuff, so
all right.
I bought a stupid
You
thing.
dressed the set. Thank
yeah,
you.
I try.
Very nice of you. I appreciate that. Love having you on. It's great to have you here. Same for you, Mike Elgin. In fact,
Yeah.
let's kick that Jeff Jarvis on the road and
I know.
just take this show
You
over, man.
You snooze, you lose. I'm also in front of my kitchen. This is actually a green screen that I built to make it look like the brick house.
We can do that. In fact, I told the crew,
You're a hologram.
film this backdrop without people and without any furniture, because we'll have to put the furniture in at all times of day or night for 3 hours with things going by and stuff. And then we could just put a green screen up, and as long as we have the table and the chairs and the microphones, no one will know the difference. In fact, maybe that's already happened. Our show today brought to you by Braintree Payments. Maybe you're working on the next unicorn, the next Uber or Airbnb or GitHub. Why not use the same payment solution that helped them become what they are today? That's right. Uber uses Braintree Payments for their in-app payments. Isn't that the secret of Uber, though? You get in the car, you go for the ride, you get out of the car, that's it. You don't even pay. You don't press a button. They already got everything.
Invisible payments.
That's really, it's awesome. That's the V.0 SDK. Airbnb uses it. GitHub scaled from the very beginning, from their first dollar to their billionth with Braintree Payments. It's this fast, easy, seamless way with just a few lines of code to add mobile payments to your app. And when I say mobile payments, I mean everything your customers want. Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. I talked a couple of weeks ago with Ankur Arya. He's the general manager for Braintree Mobile. I didn't know this. He told me they started in desktop, and then when they wanted to go to mobile, they started again from the ground up. Listen.
We looked at mobile as where the majority of the e-commerce market was going very early on, and we built the platform to be optimized for mobile. But we actually started powering desktop sites. There are a whole host of merchants, thousands of web merchants and also cross-platform merchants that do use Braintree. So some of the more popular names like Airbnb and some of these other folks that you see on our marquee also have desktop websites that we power. So it's for, native mobile experiences as well as the web, mobile web and desktop web. So we're pretty much everywhere.
You've probably seen all the attention that buyable pins are getting for Pinterest on the web, but now they're doing it on their Android app. That's Braintree. Buyable pins is Braintree. In fact, it's the technology that they acquired when they brought Harper Reed into the fold. Harper sold his company. Was it called Modest? I feel like it was called, Modest, to Braintree not so long ago. That's the basis behind buyable pins. Braintree, fast payouts, continuous support. That means you'll always be ready, whether you're earning your first dollar or your billionth dollar. You'll see fewer abandoned carts. You'll see more sales. You'll see happy users. And by the way, don't write this stuff yourself because it's hard. Money's hard. You don't want to mess with money. Let Braintree do the hard stuff. A full stack payment solution that's so easy to integrate into your platform. Check it out for yourself. BraintreePayments.com/twig. And just a little bit of a sweetener. Your first $50,000 in transactions will be fee-free when you go to BraintreePayments.com/twig. Ron, our U.S. Nexus, I think you told me you like the 5X better. Is that right?
5X, yep. Yeah, just because it's smaller. I mean, I'd love to buy a 5P, but they don't make one, so.
So you want the small screen.
Yeah.
What's the best way to open this? I don't want to tear it.
There's the silver thing is kind of sticky on the side, so there's a flap there that you can kind
of
unstick
this.
Open. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. It's like
you can reseal it.
Sticky. Yeah, I'll reseal it before I give it back to Jason. Minus
yeah, please. Yeah. I'll get you some glue stick.
Yeah,
put a rock in.
Yeah, you'll never miss it. No, I really feel like as we see the reports, Andy Anako has been taking pictures with his 6P. If you go to flickr.com/AndyI, I have to say this camera is amazing.
Yep.
Great results. And you on the 5X, it's the same camera, so you're not missing anything on that.
I loved Andy's comments on that. He basically went straight to the point and pointed out that the bottom line is you can't see any superiority between either the 6P or the iPhone.
I think
6S pictures.
I think, and we talked about this on MacBreak yesterday. I really feel like at this point, if you get any of the top of the line phones, you're going to get a really good camera. That's no longer the issue.
But those phones are all $700 to $800 and $900.
Right. And this is what
these are. This is $500.
Yeah. Oh, it feels like an $800 phone.
Yeah.
That is nice. You got the aluminum. You know what? I'm jealous. I think that was a smart move.
I've had black phones. I've had white phones. This was my opportunity to get an aluminum phone. So it's like, okay, I'll get an aluminum this time.
And then the periscope really looks more like a periscope on the aluminum one.
Yeah.
All I had full.
So people know you have a 6P from across the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And if you want to get really fancy with the camera stuff, you can install a third-party app and do raw photos.
Oh,
which one are you using? Is it FV? Is that the one that everybody uses for raw?
FV5, something like that.
One of them, yeah.
They have both audio, both stills and video, and they have more settings than, it's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, every setting known to man, and you can stick it in, Snapseed or Lightroom or whatever, and tweak all your settings afterwards. It's really fun.
Right. I do use Snapseed. I have to say it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
There you go. That is a gorgeous screen.
Yeah, it is nice.
Oh my goodness gracious golly. Yeah, sure, you betcha. That's a beautiful phone there you got there, Jason.
Okay then.
Okay then, eh?
And if you don't like the nuclear AMOLED colors, you can go to the developer options, and there's a fun little. It's sRGB, the little checkbox, and you flip it, and it'll look closer to LCD colors, which is really fun.
I learned
it's like
that in your
accurate color
review.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really neat, and it should just be in display. Like, it's not something that they could hide. They need to hide in developer options behind a Konami code and everything else.
That is a shame, but thanks to Ron, we know how to do that. Is that how you run your phone, Jason? Is in sRGB?
No, I actually leave
like OLED colors.
A little bit of that OLED color.
It's like the showroom dynamic television.
It's
just
very
boom.
bright. Yeah, I mean, that's why Samsung does it, because a lot of people just like it. They like how bright and poppy and vibrant the colors are.
You know, you might think this is nutty, but what I'm actually trying to find is what is the wattage of the adapter? Because, of course, this is a Type-C connector, and it's fast charging. Everybody's raved about the speed of charging. And what I'd like to know is, I mean, it's not quick charge, so it's not anything special. You just need to have the right wattage in the adapter, and I'd like to know what the stock adapter's wattage is. I'd also love to know what the maximum you could push out is.
Yeah, it's USB Type-C quick charging, which is supposed to be like some weird new standard that they're going to have.
All right.
But probably that's the weirdest thing about owning that phone is that it's USB Type-C, so you need to go and like invest in cables. And if you're at a friend's house and your phone is dead, you're not charging it.
That's going to change, though.
You got to take a picture of the small fine print on that charger and blow
that's
it up
what
on
I'll
the
do.
phone. Yeah,
that's what I'll do. There you go. I could
That's
use
why it
my
has a
phone
camera.
as a magnifier. I'll have to go. I don't want to ruin Jason's. See, I'm using FV5 or whatever on this. All right.
If you don't want to ruin Jason's phone, I will. I mean, somebody's got to.
No.
I already tried to bend the thing.
No. Let me focus it on that.
Do your worst.
How do I get that nice and steady? And then I can blow it up, right?
Adventures in dealing with fine print.
All right. There we go. I took a picture. Now.
And you blow it up, and it says, if you can read this, you're too close.
You're too close. Now, the problem with this really crazy camera app is it's just crazy. Wait a minute. I didn't want to do that. There we go. Today. No, not that one. That's one of those crazy shots. Those crazy. Oh, come on.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. All right. No, it's going to be too dark well, maybe not. Look at that.
You need to bring it in a Snapseed and up the contrast.
Let's see. It says right there, it is 5x3. It's 15 watt. Is that right? No. Yeah. That is a 15-watt adapter. That's bigger than the iPad adapter. You probably can't see that, but I can. Wow.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's 15 watts, 5 volts, 3 amps?
Yeah.
This says? Okay.
Wow. That's a
That's
very...
a lot of power.
So that's good to know. So that means if you want to get maximal speed in charging, you're going to want to get a 15-watt adapter if you need more than just this one. That's amazing. So that's why it charges so fast. That's pushing a lot out there. So that's USB-C to USB-C is capable of 3 amps.
Yeah, the 6P comes with a Type-C to Type-C cable and a Type-A to Type-C cable, which you absolutely need. Like I ran out and bought a ton of Type-A
I
to
did
Type-C
too.
cables.
But see, I had the Pixel and I had the MacBook, so I have been on monoprice. I have been to the mountaintop. I have seen the Type-C connectors, and I have every possible Type-C connector. So congratulations, Jason. It's a 6P.
Yeah, and it can actually charge other phones, by the way.
I know, that's not a good use of your phone. Don't do that. You don't have to
Have
decide.
you actually tried that? I don't.
Yeah, it's pretty slow, but
I
does
did
it.
and it was like microscopic amount of power.
Don't do that. It's capable of it. That's
capable.
the point, I guess. So what I have to decide, I'm getting it tomorrow right before I leave to go to my son's father-son frat weekend. And I'm trying to decide, and you can help me, guys. Am I going to get enough battery life? Should I bring my iPhone, which I know can get through the day without any problem at all? Or should I take a chance and bring my brand new, shiny new 6P? What's the battery life like?
I understand that it's
supposed to be good.
It's on the good side of average.
That's not good
That's what I heard.
enough.
It's an Android phone.
Yeah.
Damn it. Even with Doze and all the new things in Marshmallow, I can't...
I want to know what this father-son frat party is. How's your beer pong game?
No, we're playing something called Snappa. You ever hear of that?
No.
Ron, you're a young fella. Did you play that in college, Snappa?
No.
Apparently it's very popular in the frat. I thought it was going to be beer pong, too.
Yeah.
And then they said beer die. And I thought, I hope they mean dice.
or food coloring, not wake up dead.
And
in
then
the
I just
emergency
got
room.
the itinerary today, and it said, get this. So we're doing father-son Snappa tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is. And then I know that there's significant beer consumption involved. And the next day we're going skeet shooting. This seems like
what
a
could
bad
go wrong?
idea.
What could go wrong?
Anyway, yeah, that's
Okay, here's Snappa, apparently.
Okay.
that looks like that looks exactly
what?
like CU Boulder, baby, right there. Oh,
There's dice involved, apparently.
there's all sorts of. It's a fairly arcane.
I see beer. That's good.
There's a ping pong table. Yeah, I have seen them play this actually. I was bewildered by the rights of the natives. Oh my God!
Is this what you play when you're like too good for beer pong? Like
Apparently,
you
this is the next
nail every shot?
generation.
When you're too drunk for beer pong.
The kids today, I'll tell you. CU Boulder is one of the last schools with a very rich fraternity.
And you're going to be struggling against altitude sickness as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I can't wait. But at least my 6P will be. Well, it's also, and I don't know, it's Google Fi, so it would be Sprint/T-Mobile. So I don't even know if that. I should probably bring my iPhone too.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Grantland, bye-bye. What a shock. ESPN, maybe not a shock. ESPN had done some layoffs last week. Several hundred, I think, laid off because they said, it's not that we're doing badly, but we've got to kind of align our costs given how much the NFL and other game rights cost. It's gotten so expensive. And yet, if you're ESPN, you don't really have much choice. You have to get as many football and baseball games as you can. Well, the next casualty of this is Grantland, which I'm even amazed that they did. It was as much a culture site as a sports site, headed by Bill Simmons, who they fired in the spring. So I probably should have seen this coming. But a good article by Ben Thompson and Stratechery. In fact, we're going to get Ben on Twit on Sunday to talk about this. He says conventional wisdom is that both are worse off for having split. ESPN for having lost Simmons, and in the end, a truly remarkable online magazine. Simmons lost access to ESPN's massive audience. He quotes Deadspin saying that Grantland had 6 million unique visitors in March. Now, I don't know about Ars Technica, but 6 million is kind of low, isn't it? Is that low?
Especially for 50 writers.
50 writers.
Yeah.
50 writers, editors, and back-end staff. Actually, I think we have more than 6 million. Not to the website, but downloads. I think it's 7 million. Even if Grantland, writes Ben, had been much more aggressive in monetizing through advertisements, the site was not, by the way. It was beautiful. It was exactly the kind of site those of us who use ad blockers would like, which is, basically one banner ad plus you might be interested in block at the bottom. It was... there's no question that Grantland was an editorial success, he says, in terms of quality. I'd agree with that. I read it a lot. And I'm not even a sports fan. The site got 3 National Magazine Award nominations, a Primetime Emmy, which must be hard for a website.
Yeah.
And was nominated for and won a number of sports Emmys, Webby Awards, and Epi Awards, and more. Ben was a fan. But that I think the issue is scale. He quotes Todd Vanderwerf writing on Vox. The problem is scale. A larger general interest site can't be both purely atop long form because long form takes time both for writers to write and readers to read. Therefore, as both BuzzFeed and Gawker realized early on, well-done long form could be the steak but couldn't be the meal. They needed quick-hitting, fast, link-generating articles. So the question is, and here's his Ben's famous for his illustrations, where he kind of finds the sweet part in the curve between, massive content discovery with Google, Facebook, and Twitter, and highly expensive but smaller value content creation. This is the bottom line. This was his tweet. Writing is really about lead generation. That's sad, isn't it? As a writer,
Yes.
I'm sure I see you shaking your head. I'm sure Ron is also as well.
I think one of the big deals about Ars Technica is how kind of slim we roll in terms of people. Like 50 people is insane to me. Like, we have meetings and everybody fits into, like a medium-sized meeting room. Like that's a lot of these places that closed down recently, when you hear about how many writers they had hired, it's crazy. And it's like, I don't know how fast you want your homepage to like scroll with new stories.
Yeah.
When you have 50 people, like what is your plan? What is their output a month?
And we won't mention GigaOM by name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Simmons has gone on to do two things. One, he's doing a TV show for HBO, and the other is a podcast.
And apparently Grantland's podcasts were really good. I never listened to one, but...
That's part of the problem with podcasts.
Well, I didn't listen because I don't like sports, but...
Ben writes, the trouble with podcasts, they are difficult to grow. While text can be shared and consumed quickly, and this is something we face,
yeah,
a podcast requires a commitment, which is why advertising is so valuable on podcasts. Yeah. If you've made that commitment, you're engaged, and those ads work better. Simmons, though, by virtue of his previous writing, and this is the writing as lead generation, is averaging 400,000 downloads per episode. I can tell you from our experience, that's astounding.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a huge number. Although I always look, and I would caution everybody to do this with a grain of salt at podcast numbers, because there's no accepted way of measuring that.
Yeah. And
so I know what our numbers are, which is at best half that, but we now measure numbers in a much more conservative way than most people. Most people just look at the number of downloads, and if we use that number, it would be over 400,000 downloads an episode, even for this show. But that's not an accurate way to measure. So I don't know what that number means. Podcast rates are hard to come by, says Ben. I'll tell him on Sunday a little bit more about this. But I'm aware of a few podcasts a quarter the size that are earning somewhere in excess of $10,000 per episode. That's very low for us. Presuming proportionally similar rates, the Bill Simmons podcast, which publishes 3 times a week, could be on a $6 million run rate. That's probably correct.
Yeah.
Which, per my envelope math, could nearly pay for a 15-person staff a la Grantland. So, in other words, he's found a more efficient way to monetize, but writing was the great lead generator for an actual monetizable business. And that's the lesson. Interesting. I'm not sure it's right, but that's the lesson that Ben pulls from the failure of Grantland. The failure of Grantland that led to, he says, the success of Bill Simmons as a brand. I think that's accurate.
I think that the model that would have worked for them is the BuzzFeed model, where you have clickbait and you have long form, quality journalism.
That's exactly what he says.
Don't overextend yourself with, as Ron says, with the staff. Keep it lean, keep it mean, and take it from both ends, the long form and the very short form.
He says the website should have been, Grantland should have been step one to a multimedia endeavor that converted visitors to fans willing to invest in time and formats that can actually pay the bills.
Yep.
Not just podcasts. I think that may not be the right answer, but I think you're right. BuzzFeed and Vice both have mastered that model.
Yep.
On the other hand, that's sad because it kind of deprecates long-form writing, the stuff we really appreciate.
Well, human beings will tell you they want long-form, high-quality content, but in actual practice, there's so much content out there that people just skim and they brush over things. So you want to do long-form content because it's the right thing to do. You can do original journalism. If you don't do original journalism, you're just a pickup site and you shouldn't even exist. But at the same time, you need both. And I think one of the challenges of podcasting is that, unlike article, if something's viral on Twitter and it has a devastating headline, it's a fascinating thing. People go in and read an article, and they don't care that they don't always read that particular writer or that particular publication. They read that article, right? Just on its own. Whereas podcasting, people tend to think, okay, well, I'm either subscribing to it or I'm not listening to it at all.
Right.
Right. And people tend to listen to their podcasts serially, so you try to get subscriptions. But how do you get people to subscribe if they don't sample the goods? Which people,
that's where the writing and the short form is useful.
Exactly. Yeah. So
one of the things I really like that Twit does is you'll cut out the the good stuff
Yeah, we
and
do
kind of
twit
throw
bits.
it up on YouTube. Yeah, as like a little tiny thing like that. When you got the Note Pen stuck in the
Yeah,
Samsung Note,
that
when
was
you got
viral
stuck in
thanks
the
to
phone.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that got like a ton of views, and that was a cool. If you had never seen the show before, that was like a cool introduction to it and kind of a fun moment.
It was like lead generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think actually Ben's pretty accurate. And in a way, that's kind of what we do. Certainly you write. I don't write, but you write. But everybody here has built a fan base outside of podcasting, right? And then we bring on writers, people with their own fan base like Ron. You know, a lot of Twit is made up of that, right? Is people like you, like Jeff Jarvis, who have their own fan base that we use to lead generate, I guess. I mean, that seems like a scummy way to put it.
And it works both ways. You know, people that watch Twit get to see, you know, guests come on and you know, see articles and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah. I think really there's the big issue in the broader, larger issue is discovery, right? And I, as a user, I've always felt this way with the internet. There's too much great stuff on it.
Yep.
And I can't figure out how to find it. I know I'm missing good stuff. And eventually you just give up and say, well,
right.
I hope I get some of it.
I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed
exhausted.
now. I'm going to stop looking for content.
Why else do we sleep so poorly? We're constantly scanning the internet at 3 a.m.
Right. Yep.
Somebody's ringing your doorbell.
Yeah, I know. It's been
I love that.
Ring video doorbell.
Got that ring video doorbell.
Actually, my wife is schlepping in groceries, so every time she walks by the door,
You see the doorbell.
Oh, it's like
go.
another bag of
That's
groceries.
So funny. Discovery is a big challenge, and you know, I'm watching the World Series, and all you see is these ads, and they're not for Twitter, and they're not really Twitter ads.
No.
They're Twitter Moments ads. Because Twitter realizes that Twitter has no value at all unless you spend some time creating a Twitter feed that's of use.
Yeah.
So they created this new Moments page, which has nothing to do with who you follow. It's just kind of news feed.
Yep.
And then they spend, it must be millions of dollars on World Series ads and on other big, I think it was on Blood and Oil, big TV show ads, millions of dollars, to get people not to go to the Twitter homepage, but to go to the Moments page.
And I think Moments, for me personally, I think is a huge failure.
I agree.
I keep thinking surely there's got to be something good there, and every single time I don't find anything compelling that's there. It just seems like it's just
it's basically random. Even Flipboard's better because at least it's tied to my Twitter feed. This is not tied to anything. It's just what some editor at Twitter thinks is. This is like a bad newspaper.
Yep.
It's USA Today for the web.
Yeah,
right.
It's like any other website, but Twitter's running it.
Right.
But it's just any other news website on there.
Right.
You know, and speaking of this, there's a really cool app that I'm going to go ahead and recommend. It's called TL _DR. Of course, too long, didn't read. And
it's a good name for an app.
Yeah, and their story selection is what Moments should be.
They're surfacing
really interesting content, and I have it set up. I've actually got it set up as a notification on my phone, and I don't get irritated by it. I actually want these notifications.
This is not an email. So there's an email app called TLDR. That's not it. First problem they've got is that there's another app with the same name.
Yeah.
And not to mention, it's a very common thing that everybody uses when they write on the internet.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah. But anyway, this part of I guess what I'm saying is the Twitter's problem with Moments is that it's bad editorially. It's not that the concept is bad. It's just that they're failing as an editorial.
How do you feel about Apple's news? I feel the same way about news, that it doesn't do what I want it to do.
I don't use Apple News either. I mean, you're talking about the Apple's News app? Yeah, that doesn't, it sucks.
At least that supposedly is driven by my interests. Do you agree, Ron? I mean, you probably...
my exposure to Apple News has been complaining from the people here about how many hoops they have to jump through to make it work. But I haven't really tried it, no.
Here is TLDR. It's tldr.io.
Yeah.
So it's a Chrome extension.
And there's also an iOS app. I don't actually, I thought it had an Android app, but it apparently doesn't.
Too many tabs open, remembering too little, too much to read.
And that may be yet another thing. I don't know if that's.
Look, it's sponsored by Giggle.
Yeah.
And the Rude Baguette.
You know, but the thing that bugs me about so much of what Twitter is doing these days is that they don't seem to appreciate Twitter. So Twitter,
Right.
Twitter is a thing. It's
Right.
minimalist. It's not algorithmically sorted. It's linear. It's based on who you followed, and those are the qualities that make me like Twitter
Right.
a lot. And they just have this Facebook envy where they're flirting with algorithmic sorting.
Yeah.
They're inserting stuff from people I
But
didn't
that's
follow.
because if you come to Twitter as a normal person, this is why Twitter growth is now just what is it, a couple of million last month.
Yeah.
You come to Twitter as a normal person, it's befuddling.
It took me forever to get used to Twitter, and I'm definitely not a normal person. Like I probably tried and quit about 3 times.
Yeah.
Before just kind of every other journalist on earth using it forced me to finally
you.
sit down and try to make
Yes.
myself use it.
Yeah.
But it's very confusing. It's hard to figure out why you would need this. Like most of the time when you describe Twitter to someone, they're like, why? Why would I need that? And it's a source for me. It's a source of breaking news.
Yes.
And kind of comments and nothing else. And a lot of people don't care about breaking news. They're happy to read about it like newspaper style, like tomorrow on whatever your website is. But for people like us where we need to see the new thing, it's useful, but not normal people.
How do we solve this? I mean, this really is the discovery issue. How do we don't want to miss everything. We don't want to see everything.
Right.
Is it curation? Is that the key? Because that's kind of what Moments is. That's kind of what
Everybody does that for Twitter,
Yeah.
So many tweets are the source of news stories now that's everybody on earth does Twitter curation. And I think normal people don't need that level of speed or noise that Twitter gets you. Like Twitter is the crap that curators have to dig through to find the good stuff. But I don't think normal people need to get involved in that or want to get involved in it.
Oh, this is too weird. So I've installed TLDR. And now as I read websites, is it going to shorten?
Yeah, it shrinks your stuff down, does it? I should totally try it on one of my articles, see how bad it is.
I can't imagine. And it's a human doing that. See, I don't have any TLDRs on here.
Is there a human doing that?
They say it's human. Oh, you have to press this button? Options. Let me see the options. Don't check the existence of TLDR for some sites.
No, it says powered by liquid helium. The plugin analyzes the content and creates summarized versions. So it's some computer doing
It's computer generated. Oh, Lord, that sounds terrible.
If we're talking about the same too long didn't read.
Yeah, but I don't see they specifically single out Hacker News.
It's a picture of a sloth or panda or some kind of furry creature. Are we talking about the same?
Trash panda.
TLDR.io. I don't see a sloth.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go.
Wrong
Here's
one.
some
That's
shortened
a terrible
things.
name.
Yeah, already they're suspect. Let's go and look in tech news, right? Because that's what we do, and we know a little bit about this.
Oh, okay. You don't have to install anything.
No, you can. Well, I think you do. I don't know because I didn't see anything like this until I.
Well, I don't see any of my articles, so obviously this is crap.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to say it is. Given what.
Oh, there's bullet points for everything. That's cute.
Yeah, I don't. This is.
I hate to say it because it sounds horribly antiquated, but RSS is really awesome.
I wish RSS would revive.
I still use it. I use Feedly. And what I do is every
I do
time I
too.
find an awesome source of news, and of course you stumble across things, I just throw it in there. And I must have, I'm scared to even know, 400 news sources or something.
Yeah.
And it's in reverse chronological order.
Yeah.
I can scroll through it quickly. I can save things to Instapaper. And so that sort of thing, one of the problems I think we have with content discovery is that we discard good ones.
Right.
While we're chasing the shiny new thing. And then later we realize, the shiny new thing
we miss ours. Look at this. This surfaced a whole bunch of articles. Compare that to TLDR. This is the top front page on my Feedly. Nexus 6P bends easily again. Here's a list of USB Type-C cables Google's lead engineer recommends because they're not all made equal. Motorola's opening a retail shop in Chicago. The Nexus 6P features a double tap to wake feature hidden in the kernel. I mean, these are all articles. This is good.
Yeah. Yep.
But of course, as you say, you and I had to do the hard work of putting together hundreds of sources.
They have pre-made packages in Feedly, and you can just subscribe to like technology, and it will give you a bunch of things. But yeah, that's like one of my favorite views, where you can just look at titles and just blow through your list of feeds and see what happens.
But this raises what I think is a central confusion around content discovery. It's not about discovering new sources of content. It's about hanging on to the sources of content that you discover.
And the tools that you've discovered.
Yeah, it's like the problem is we forget about great sources of content that we've already discovered. And if you can figure out a central place to retain them, we discover new sources of content all the time. People refer to them here and there. I mean, they're everywhere. But the trick is to not forget about them.
Well, and frankly, podcasting is based on RSS, so
yeah.
I don't know what we would do without it.
I mean, that's another great thing about RSS is it's agnostic about the source of content. Throw your podcast in there, throw your publication, and it's all presented in a very readable format. I'm a huge fan of RSS, and I think Google screwed up royally by canceling Reader.
Sigh.
I know that's an old gripe, but
I think some kind of new RSS interface would do pretty well. I mean, Feedly's kind of there when like you go to titles and it shows you how many people read each article, which lets you like really quickly see what news is important or popular and what people have read. And that's made me read articles that I normally would never have clicked on, but I see because everybody else thinks this is a big deal, or everybody else thinks this is really funny or whatever. It's definitely made me click on it. And if you were to do something that kind of took all those popular stories, like Feedly has access to everybody's RSS feeds. If they were just like, here's the most popular articles in the world, in these categories, that would be, I think, a really neat thing where it would be like crowdsourced, like deciding what stories are good.
Well, here's a story I just found in Feedly. Zach Hall writing in 9 to 5 Google. Facebook supposedly will be launching its Notify News app next week. Everybody wants to get into this business. The problem with Facebook's app is it's with partners, right? Yeah. So what determines what gets in the news app is whoever gave Facebook the most money, I would.
Oh, whoever signs up for instant articles?
Yeah, I guess so. The app will be called Notify. Actually, this comes from the Financial Times. So let's go to the I was going to say, let's go to the original article, but it's got a paywall in front of it.
But here's the secret. If you search Google for the headline.
Just Google the headline.
You guys already know all that, huh? Wow, you're good. Or I'll just read 9 to 5 Google's synopsis of it. Media partners include CBS, The Washington Post, and Vogue. Well, thank God, because I am looking for a better way to find great articles in Vogue.
Right.
I am looking for that.
They have articles in Vogue?
So...
hey, that's one of my.
It's a Condé Nast publication.
I think so, right? Probably. There's so many.
A fine Condé. Hey, I read the New Yorker and Wired, so I think we're covered here.
Okay.
How does Condé treat you? Are you kind of autonomous at ours, or?
Yes.
Just
the Ken Fisher, the guy that runs ours, the founder, does an excellent job of kind of insulating us from the mothership. Yeah. And we get to do pretty much whatever we want. So it's cool.
Plus, nobody understands you.
Yes. Yeah, right. Because we're this weird website and everybody else is like, the what? Internet? Does that what kind of paper does that get printed on? And it's like, no, we don't have a magazine.
No, never did. It reminds me of Bill Gaines. When Mad Magazine was sold to Time Warner, Bill Gaines, the founder of Mad Magazine, who was quite the character, just made sure that they did not have anything to do with Mad at all, and was cantankerous and just he kept Time at arm's length. And until he died, Mad Magazine preserved its integrity. Of course, and as soon as he passed away, Mad Magazine got co-opted, and suddenly they've got ads and all sorts of things. So you're lucky to have.
Have you heard the latest dead journalism empire, National Geographic?
Oh, my God, this makes me cry. Rupert Murdoch bought National Geographic, and today, how many layoffs? 200?
Everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody was, that's what I saw.
Oh, my God. So obviously this is a developing story because the first story I saw was a percentage. It's the biggest layoff. No, it's not everybody. It's the biggest layoff in their history. It's 180 out of 2,000.
Oh, okay.
Calm down. Unless something else has happened. It's a cost-cutting move, but it is the largest layoff in National Geographic history. It'll also affect people at the National Geographic Channel, which is the most profitable part. That's everybody knows. Right? That's been a very successful thing for them. The National Geographic TV stuff. It's 9%. Involuntary separations will make up about 9%, and the rest are buyouts.
Wait, so how many then?
180.
Okay.
That's also
The
what
stuff
pirates
I
used to
read
call people walking the plank.
Yeah.
Involuntary
The stuff I read
separations.
made it sound like National Geographic was dead and everybody was.
Well, it may be. I mean, I can't imagine Rupert Murdoch is going to preserve the. Yeah, see, here's the story I saw that you probably saw. Rupert Murdoch lays off National Geographic staff.
Yes. Right. That makes it sound like everybody on Earth got fired. Yeah, reverb. Yeah, right. That's what I was reading.
Yeah. So, wow, the memo went out November 3rd, came to the National Geographic office. This was the day in which Rupert Murdoch's. So it happened on November 3rd. 20th Century Fox took over National Geographic. The management of National Geographic sent out an email telling its staff, all of its staff, to report to their headquarters and wait by their phones. So that's the email you don't want to get. Everyone who was in the field, every photographer, every reporter, even those on vacation. I think this is. Because the Washington Post said it was 180 people.
Well, this says 180 employees received involuntary separation layoffs, while some other staff members were offered consideration of voluntary buyout. So that's 150 people were forcefully fired, and some other people were like, "Will you please leave?" I guess.
I think that it's not. I think that article is overstating it because as everything else I've read says around 9% layoffs.
But anyway, it's sad and scary and
well, it's I would say the beginning of the end, right? I can't imagine.
I mean, the Wall Street Journal does okay. They're a Murdoch enterprise.
Right.
And they were good before and they're still good now. They break tons of Google News. We were just talking about them earlier. So I don't know. Maybe they're just doing super cost cutting or something.
Well, they laid off their photographic editor, Sherry Bruckbacher. That
seems like a big deal.
That's like a big deal.
That's like what National Geographic is most known for is their awesome pictures.
Their picture editor was also laid off.
Jeez.
Kim Hubbard. This doesn't sound good. Yeah. Well, we kind of knew this was going to happen. And, of course, the Financial Times, whose story I was trying to read behind the paywall, it's also a Murdoch. The future of news is Facebook Notify, which is an app, which supposedly will come out tomorrow. If you Apple News, this Twitter Moments, I imagine this will be very similar. I just feel like this is not what I'm looking for. Feedly is what I'm looking for. I don't know. Yeah. What about you at home? What are you looking for? Are you looking for some, glossy thing that I feel like this has already failed. Remember what was it? The Murdoch effort that was app based. Was it called the National? They hired 100 journalists, built a newsroom, built an app, and within a year folded.
So one of the things that's different about Notify that I think is, remember Facebook Home?
Yeah.
Where Facebook wanted to be
flop.
but they wanted to be the first thing you touch when you get on an Android phone. Well, this is, I think, to me, this is a kind of sort of like that because the news is not going to be inside the app. You don't launch the app and then sit there and look at news. It is based primarily on notifications. So the notifications center is where you read the news.
Well, and by the way, we were talking about this on Sunday on Twit. It used to be the home page was the real estate you wanted. Yeah. Now it's the notification.
Yes.
That is, it turns out we're so busy. Right. We pay so little attention to what's going on that you want to get in the notification. Right. And to do that, you have to be a standalone app. right?
Yep.
That's the new ground zero. That's
That's one of the reasons why Facebook wants everything to be in its own app, because it's a new opportunity to be in the notifications window, and you won't be forgotten. I mean, this is the real problem. You know, you're talking about how Android is awesome because it has so many apps. Well, you know, how many apps can you really run? So it's the shelf space issue with apps is just the biggest issue.
Right.
It's the only issue, really.
Well, I would never want like a monolithic Facebook app. They have so many crappy services that I just have no interest in at all. And half the time I don't even have the regular Facebook app loaded. I just have the Messenger app because people actually use that. And I don't really care about the baby pictures that are on Facebook.
I think Paper, which was a Facebook app with the same purpose, basically.
Yeah, right.
That was a flop, right?
Yep.
They still, I think you still can get it, but I thought Paper looked pretty good, but it was Facebook. Let's take a break. We'll talk about smart replies. You can show me how to use it in Inbox. I use Inbox. I like Inbox.
It does not work yet.
It doesn't work, so you can't show it to me.
I mean, it's supposed to hit today, but who knows?
All right,
maybe
I'll keep trying.
I'll do
an
ad, and maybe it'll.
And then maybe it'll work. I'll do an ad. It's so interesting because more and more when we talk about health and we talk about staying healthy, of course, the conversation was about exercise, diet. Now it's about sleep. More and more, it's about sleep. It's about getting a deep, restful sleep, not letting your phone or the internet distract you from that. And it turns out this impacts health in so many, in diet, weight, in heart health, of course, state of mind. A good night's sleep is maybe one of the most important things you can do for your health. And, of course, who wants to be tired all day? That's why the Casper mattress is a mattress everybody should take a look at. CASPER. These are made in the USA premium mattresses that are designed to give you that night's sleep you've been craving. No springs. These mattresses are made out of a unique combination of memory foam and latex so that you get support and softness. It's a very interesting feeling. I love my Casper mattress. They are delivered for free in these surprisingly compact boxes. Here's one. This is a queen size mattress, easy to get in the room. When I got my son wanted a queen size mattress, and in the frat house, he's up 3 flights. I got him a Casper because he could easily get it in the room. I don't know how he's going to get it out of the room. But you know, after a year in a frat house, maybe you just don't want to take it out of the room. He's loving it. He really loves it. He says his friends love it too. I don't know what that means. You can you can buy it online. And by the way, you may say, "But wait, I want to try before I buy." You are trying before you buy. Well, you're buying, but then you have 100 days to return it and get every penny back. Free delivery and yes, friendly free returns should you not like it at all. It's easy, and you have 100 days to do so. They know they have to do that because you're not going to be able to try it in a mattress showroom, so they're going to have to let you try it in the house. But I have to tell you, you're not going to want to give up your Casper. But the first few nights, take your old mattress, set it aside, put it in the basement, keep it for a while, just in case. It is amazing. They're so restful, so relaxing, and very affordable because instead of that huge markup in the mattress store, you're getting it direct from the factory. $500 for a twin, going all the way up to the biggest mattress, $950 for the king size. That is less than half what you'd pay for a mattress of this quality at a mattress store. And you're going to save an additional $50 by using the promo code TWIG, T-W-I-G. So go to Casper.com/twig, read up about it, answer your questions, take a look at how they're made. When you order it, make sure you use the offer code TWIG for $50 off. They say, we need a Casper in the UK, says Keith 512.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. That's all I can say. Tweet at 12:51, less than 2 hours ago, by Inbox by Gmail. Thank you, chat room, for passing this along. Thank you, Gardner. To all those asking, Smart Reply will start rolling out to Inbox on Android and iOS tomorrow.
Darn it.
I'm not sure this is going to be all that useful. The idea is, and then here's a screenshot so you can kind of see what happens. You got to use Inbox, first of all, which a lot of people don't like. It's a very stripped-down email client that takes advantages of the auto-categorization built into Gmail. You'll have at the bottom of each message 3 responses. I don't know if they're customized for the message. In this case, it says, I don't, sorry. I guess it must be.
Yeah, so
I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, they're highly customized using very advanced AI.
So the email begins, do you have any documentation on how to use the new software? If not, maybe you could put something together. And the automated response is A, I don't, sorry, I'll have to look for it. Or B, I'll send it to you. And then you do the attachment, and you've written the email.
Yeah, it's powered by Google's it's a cloud-based natural language processor thing that their crazy research team came
just
up with.
admit it. It's powered by what Google knows about you.
It's actually interestingly, it's not based on what it knows about you. It's not customized in that way.
It isn't.
There are 2 basic AI engines. One is to understand the message, and what they do is they go through the message word by word, and it's purely semantic. They discard everything in style, and the software actually tries to understand in quotes what it actually says. If it's a long-winded message,
right,
it will get it will seek not only is this something that needs a reply, is this something that can be replied to in 3 to 6 words? If not, it doesn't do anything. But if so, it will take a shot at it, and then it uses a different engine to construct using the same tone.
Wow.
And so here's what this really is. Here's the best way I think to think about Smart Reply. Basically, think about chatbots that researchers have been working on for decades. They're trying to pass the Turing test.
Eliza, yeah.
They're trying to create a chatbot so that you can text back and forth with the machine,
right,
and you can't tell that it's a machine or not. So nothing has passed the Turing test yet, despite a couple of controversies. And so what this is doing is it's taking that whole area of research, and it's applying it to not replacing the human conversant, but it's augmenting a human one. And so what it's doing is it's essentially using the human as an editor in order to pass the Turing test. Ultimately, that's what this is. And so
they're going to, I wonder if they get feedback from which ones you choose. I bet they do. They keep track of how.
They don't.
There's a suggest button next to it.
Yeah, but they don't.
Oh, okay.
They don't
They're not
read,
tracking what you do.
They promise that no human will ever read either what you get or what you say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
no
for privacy
human.
reasons, they don't read your email. Yeah.
No human does not mean no Google. So here's an email. Turkey. Hi, all. We wanted to invite you to join us for an early Thanksgiving on November 22nd, beginning around 2 p.m. Please bring your favorite dish, RSVP by next week.
And the reply is, don't call me a turkey.
Yeah, my reply would be, I'd love to go to Turkey. When are you leaving? No. So here are the 3 replies. By the way, with exclamation marks, which means they saw the exclamation mark in the body and they said, oh, that's how they write A. Number 1 is count us in, exclamation mark. Number 2 is we'll be there, exclamation mark. And number 3 is sorry, we won't be able to make it, period. That's actually
Sad
pretty
face.
good.
Yeah.
I would love an emoticon.
Yes, I know. They're going to come out with
well.
emojis here pretty soon.
That's pretty good.
My favorite story from this is when they were working on it. The algorithm would reply "I love you" to every message. The early version. It's such a sweet computer.
Yeah. This is actually a great article. It's on the Google Research blog. This is not the announcement article, but it's linked from the announcement article. It's describing how it works, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's using recurrent neural networks, 2 of them, one to encode the incoming email and one to predict possible responses. But this is always what we wanted computers to do, right?
Yep.
And I really get sad because so many people are so worried about privacy that they go, oh, no, that means you have to read our mail and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like we're not going to get the computer future, the technology future we wanted because of people being so privacy focused.
Yeah.
Now, I understand and I support privacy and all that, but I want this stuff. And if it has to read my email to do it, fine.
Yeah, they're reading your email anyway for ads and categorization and everything else. So it's not like
people don't like that.
Well,
But see, I think that this is the thing that mislead. Then they are not reading your. I'm going to do another one, email.
It's
They've created
anthropomorphizing
a machine that responds in specific ways if certain things are in the email. If a forest falls in the tree, et cetera, if nobody's actually reading, if a human isn't reading it,
right,
then I don't think they are reading your email. And besides all that, even if they were, I agree with you, Leo, that if you know what you're getting into, I think this is something that people shouldn't automatically reject. The other thing that's interesting about this is that it seems to me that Inbox is sort of becoming a virtual assistant.
That's
Inbox. The direction it's going. I do too.
Love Inbox.
And lots of people, it's like Twitter. It's like Ron's experience with Twitter and my experience with Twitter. People go to it and they're like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have that much control. And they leave and then maybe they come back.
Yeah.
I really strongly recommend that everybody who can force yourself to use Inbox for a couple of weeks.
And let Google.
It's a great way.
It's my new bumper sticker.
I don't have it today because, Leo, you've kept me very busy today, but normally I keep a zero inbox. All the time, zero inbox.
I'm impressed.
And it's because of Inbox. It's so easy to procrastinate intelligently. It's so easy to. I use the feature of like, okay, go away and come back when I'm at home. I don't want to see this.
Yeah, you can snooze email.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's such a great service. I really like Inbox.
My problem is you can't use it with Exchange. So on Android, you have to use Gmail to use Exchange.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm like, well, I'm already in Gmail now. So.
And I think it still doesn't work with Google for Work and Mail. And all that stuff.
I am blissfully free of all of those considerations.
We've actually been considering trying to get everybody at work to use their work email, which is a Google for Work email, because then we have better control over who has access to the documents. And when you leave, instead of having to go through the documents and seeing who has access to which documents, we could just kill your work email, and then you won't have access to it anymore.
Which is why you need Android at work.
But you don't, I don't, Lisa doesn't. Because half the staff is using their personal Gmail account because we want these features.
Right, exactly.
The closer we get to the release of the BlackBerry Priv, the more I'm like, man, I hate software keyboards. And this. Are
you going to get a BlackBerry Priv?
I'm gonna try to play with one. I don't know. But like this feature is an indication of like how much software keyboards suck, because it's gonna type one sentence for you, and on a desktop with a real keyboard, you wouldn't care at all about that. You're like, I could type one sentence in half a second.
But on mobile,
on a mobile phone, that's a huge pain in the butt. So having it type that 1 second, the one example was I'm on it, like 3 words.
Yeah.
But on mobile, that's useful. So.
Well, the thing is that I'm excited about, Ron, is that, people talk about whether, something is keyboard friendly or mouse friendly or whatever. I think that these next generation AI-based virtual assistants and all these other features should replace the need to be typing all the time. I mean, we type way too much, I think, and I'd love to see a lot more intelligence where it's always suggesting things. You want to just say this whole thing. Yeah, just say that. That sort of thing. I mean, if you think about it, here's something that came up in all this blather about Inbox Smart Reply, which is that how often does everybody reply to email by saying, sounds good, exclamation point? Like half the emails that I get, I reply with that basically. And so, I've written what do they call them in Gmail? Filters and sort of macros and the sort of canned replies. We've always have these sort of dumb approaches to semi-automate email, and it's great to have some help from a massive artificial intelligence bank of servers, I think.
Yeah.
But I really like this whole thing, and of course. The other thing that's interesting about Inbox is that it keeps getting smarter about various things. So increasingly, as you type in something, especially into the reminders feature, for those of you unfamiliar with Inbox, you can send an email or you can send yourself a reminder. And I use the reminders thing all the time. But if you start to type in certain things into the reminders box, it will autofill in certain things like pick up whatever. I don't remember the exact features. And then oftentimes it will populate that reminder with some intelligent thing. So if you, for example, you're setting up a calendar invite or whatever, it'll put the link to the calendar invite in there, stuff like that. And I just want to see a lot more of that because I think that
I love that.
everybody badmouths.
Even if it does a bad job.
Yeah.
Part of the process
It's
is
helping.
we got to start and correct it and give it feedback so that it gets better at it. Because
exactly.
I want the computer to know what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the fact that, well, first of all, everybody badmouths email talking about how it's inadequate. No, email is actually pretty great because it's so universal, right? It's not a social network where it's, I have to be on Pinterest in order to communicate. No, it's email. Everybody uses it, and it's automatable, and especially with things like with Inbox, the people I'm talking to don't have to be in Inbox, but I can use Inbox to do all kinds of amazing
That's a good
tricks.
point. Yeah,
and I just love it, especially since I've been able to maintain the zero inbox thing, which just gives me so much peace of mind. It's unbelievable.
I just wish Google now would be do more. I feel like they've held back on that too, and I worry that it's because of privacy advocates and they don't want to go too far because they're afraid that people will get upset, that they're creepy, and they're too cautious about crossing the creepy line.
Well, there was an internal fight about Google now. The Android team wanted it, and the Google search team wanted to take it over. So they've been going back and forth about who exactly owns that and all that. And maybe now that that's decided, I hope that they will, add more features to it now.
I think it's got to be everywhere, including and especially in Inbox. I'd love to see it completely integrated in an Inbox.
Yeah.
By the way, just so you know, Jason, I went over and gave Jason back his Nexus 6P so he could do his own. It's very generous of you to let me take that out.
No problem.
And open that because I wouldn't have.
I'm spoiled because I have two Nexus 6Ps with me right now,
Well,
so
now
it's okay.
I hate you. Now I just hate you. I'm sorry I said anything. But I love the Verge's article, which says the Nexus 6P will snap in half if you try to snap it in half.
Which is true.
So don't try to snap it in half.
Because you know what will happen.
Because it will.
In half.
Apparently it does bend. The box doesn't, as we now know.
You're welcome.
But thank you. But apparently you can snap it in half if you really try. So don't.
Yeah, and just by the way, from that video, if you watch it, he does a lot of things to the device before he ever tries to bend it. I'm not saying that it wouldn't bend without that other stuff, but I definitely am saying that the stuff that he does to it probably weakened it a little bit as well.
It just shows you that people will do anything to get clicks.
It's the world of YouTube.
Yeah.
Thin smartphones are dumb. Give me a bigger battery.
I agree with that completely.
Right.
That's what's kind of making me mad. I mean, Apple's able to do it. The 6S Plus, which is what I carry around, I can't kill that thing.
It's indestructible.
As long as you charge it every night, you're going to be you're going to get a big, nice, long day of battery life. And I just wish there were an Android phone besides the OnePlus One, which is the last phone that did that. Maybe the Sonys do it. People rave about the Sonys.
The BlackBerry battery is huge.
The Priv,
it's like 3,400 milliamp hours.
Well, so is the 6P. That's it. It's 3450s on the 6P. It should be better.
Is the
a smaller screen?
Yeah, okay, smaller screen. And is it 4 or UHD display on the Priv, or is it 1080p?
5.4-inch 1440p display.
Okay.
Curved AMOLED, if you want to get.
It's ergonomically perfect, according to me. I wouldn't mind going back to a physical keyboard, I guess.
Yeah.
It has a Schneider Kruznak certified camera.
Watch your language, Leo.
Schneider
It's a family
Kruznak.
show.
What?
But what's so sad about this is this website is pathetic.
This BlackBerry, it amazes me. The iPhone came out in 2007, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I would say now, today, BlackBerry has something that might compete with it.
Maybe. Yeah. And it's
been
on
8 years.
Android.
It's on.
Yeah. Can I buy a Priv? Choose a color.
Black. It's just like the Model T.
Any color you want as long as it's black. Man.
On Friday, it'll be at AT&T.
Okay.
Ships from BlackBerry directly on the 9th.
You really want this phone, I can tell, Ron.
I'm going to have to buy one. Frickin' BlackBerry will quote me in their blog post, but won't send me a review unit.
I hate it. Hate it when that happens.
I'm so astounded at how stingy some companies are and how badly it hurts them. There are certain products that if they just gave everyone in the press one, they would be guaranteed to dominate their market segment. And then all these companies are like, oh, we have 3 eval units. As soon as Walt Mossberg and Jason Howell are done with the 3 units, in 2 months.
It is kind of crazy because...
Well, BlackBerry's being super sleazy, and I think the plan is to give it to the fan sites first. BlackBerry's going to get one. Yeah. And then once the super positive reviews can hang out for like a week, then they'll probably send it to more impartial people.
If it were my business, I'd do that.
Yeah, I get the strategy. I just don't like it.
It's $700, by the way.
Yep. But hey, man, you get a keyboard, you get a hardware keyboard and a hardware camera button and a hardware convenience key. And there's like all this old school stuff on it that everybody cut off to cut prices.
Why don't they have an extending antenna? That would be
cool. That'd be cool.
This little slide out antenna. That's awfully pricey. Wow, I'm not sure I want to spend that much money to find out how bad this. Maybe it'll be great. I'll read Ron Amadio's review when it comes out, and then I'll know.
If they ever give him one.
Hey, great high praise to Om Malik, who 2 years ago said Amazon will open a store. Watch. He said 2 years ago, he said the future of shopping is obviously with Amazon. It's obviously with ordering online, but we need somewhere to go to look at it.
Yeah,
we need it's the Apple Store model. It's the and Microsoft, same thing. In fact, I got a tweet or an email from somebody who said I wouldn't have bought the Microsoft Band had I not been able to go to the Microsoft Store. I looked at it, I thought I don't, but then I tried it at the store and I bought it. And Amazon is opening its first bookstore in Seattle.
Yeah, and
a bookstore.
A physical bookstore. And what's amazing about this, first of all, the books selection are chosen by ratings and sales on Amazon.com.
Interesting.
So it's sort of kind of crowdsourced in that sense.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the reason Amazon is harming physical brick and mortar bookstores is a phenomenon called showrooming.
Right.
So people go to Barnes and Noble. They're like, oh, I want to buy this book, and so they whip out their phone and they order it from Amazon for next day delivery. This is the first store that I'm aware of ever created where showrooming is the main point.
Demon 7 says, I thought Best Buy was the Amazon showroom. Exactly.
But of all the things on Amazon I definitely don't need to see before I buy, a book is at the top of the list. Who cares? Like
That's true.
You can flip through the first couple pages on Amazon anyway.
Right.
Aha, but Ron, they're also showing off their hardware, their Fire stuff. And so it's also a kind of an Apple Store type of a concept where people can sort of be introduced.
I admit
it's a Kindle store.
Yeah, it's a Kindle. I did fall for the new Kindle. I ordered the new Paperwhite. 300 DPI.
It happens.
It happens. I've bought many a Kindle which I have never used because I always end up using the phone or the tablet.
Yep.
But I keep thinking this is such a good idea. And as we know, apparently the people who use ebook readers are falling dramatically. I think it was 19%.
Well, because of paper books, which are on the rise.
They're big.
They're big and they're growing.
And vinyl records.
Yeah.
Yep. And pretty soon we're all going to watch black and white TV because, monochrome is always better.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think the vinyl record thing and the paper book thing are two different things. The vinyl record thing is a sort of a hipster affectation for the most part.
Oh boy.
The paper thing I think is the paper and the paper book phenomenon I think is directly related to the number of hours we're spending already looking at a screen. People just can't stand looking at screens anymore.
Yes.
It's like after, the number of hours people on smartphones is now above 5 hours a day on average. And then we're looking at TVs and we're
I have
tablets.
a different solution. I stopped reading books. I only listen.
Yeah.
That was my solution. Is if it's not on Audible, I rarely read it.
Yeah.
In fact, the only books I read that aren't on Audible are programming books because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to read a program.
Plus, they read every table, right?
Yeah.
They read the whole.
Plus all of this extra book and game stuff that you can do on your phone. It's like if you do that on your phone, you're going to kill your battery and you're not going to be able to text anybody or make a phone call or any of that stuff. So yeah.
King. Okay, talk about bad timing.
Oh gosh.
King, which created Candy Crush, just was sold to Blizzard, Activision, for $5.9 billion. Right? This reminds me so much of OMG Pop.
Yeah.
Which was the game that sold for, a huge amount of money. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, not another game came out of them. Eventually, they just shut the whole division down.
Yeah.
Even already King has admitted we cannot come up with a sequel to Candy Crush, just variations of the same game.
But this is the ultimate model for social and mobile games. You come up with a game that's so faddish and viral that it becomes a household name, and sell the company, sell everything.
That's the smartest thing you could do. It's an all-cash transaction.
This is 3 times the amount of money that Facebook spent for Oculus VR.
All cash. It's a 25% premium to King's stock price. It is below the public opening price, their IPO opening price, but still. Activision's going to use $3.6 billion in cash held outside the U.S. That's always the problem, right? Is you offshore your money for tax purposes, but then you can't repatriate it to buy something. So you can only buy stuff that's overseas, which helps King, because King, I guess, is in Ireland. So Activision will use almost all of its offshore funds and then borrow the rest. Oh, dear.
I wonder how much Guinness you could buy with $5.9 billion. Just wondering.
Why is King worth that much? I don't.
They're not.
Well,
if Minecraft is worth $2.5 billion, how is Candy Crush worth more than twice that?
But the way Activision looks at this is that it's all going to mobile. That's what they're freaking out about, and so they think, "Oh, these guys know mobile."
Are dumb.
Yes.
But Activision has been great at mobile. Hearthstone is like one of the best mobile.
Hearthstone
games
is a good
out
example.
there.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
Well, that's the
like
Blizzard side, right?
It's the only AAA like mobile game, really. I feel like.
Unbelievable.
They're buying it for that advanced Candy Crush technology.
They have tried other games. So what did Zynga pay for OMG Pop? Does anybody remember? Let me see if I can find it. Because that's the classic. And 2 years later, they shut it down.
But the risk of looking at previous acquisitions is they keep getting so insane that the old value, the old...
This is meaningless. You should multiply by 1,000 to get
$200 million.
See, they got a deal.
At the time, it was this huge amount.
$5.9 billion.
In a couple of years, $200 million has become a paltry sum.
Yes.
Except
if it doesn't have a B in the word.
I know, but then you hear about sales of companies like, Gazelle, which sold for $17 million.
Yeah.
Just a year ago, they got $63 million in venture funding. I have to think that's not good.
But that's, I mean, they're actually doing, Gazelle is doing the yeoman's work. That's not scalable. They have to individually interact with every phone they buy and sell.
Right.
Whereas with games, you just
make it once and make billions.
A billion downloads is more or less the same.
Step 3 profit. Let's talk about Facebook's results. Speaking of profit, 1.55 billion users. Was this up to date?
1 billion users a day now.
Daily active users, 1 billion.
I believe so, yes.
Holy camole.
That is insane. And that's not counting WhatsApp, Instagram.
8 billion video views a day. 8 billion. Internet.org, which was their initiative to get the offline third world online. 15 million plus people online every day. Or no, just in general. 900 million WhatsApp users. Now compare that to what? Twitter's 300 some million?
Yeah.
900 million. 700 million Messenger users. 400 million Instagram users.
Facebook scares me. They have too many users.
$4.5 billion in revenue. That's actually not that much.
No.
I mean, they couldn't even buy Candy Crush with that money. That's not that much.
Yeah.
It did beat the street. And of course, when you beat the street, that's all good for the stock price.
Yeah, the street hates it. But yeah.
The street hates Facebook?
I'm just saying. It just doesn't sound good for this. Never mind.
The street loves Facebook. What else? Percentage of monthly users who come back daily is 65.1%. So really is most people just check it every single day. And 4 million new users in the U.S. and Canada. That's more than Twitter added in the U.S. and Canada. In fact, worldwide.
Yep. You know what's really impressive about their user numbers is that they're banned in China.
Yes, you don't even get to include it.
But Zuckerberg is working on it. He's learning Mandarin, and he's going to get into China.
Net profit, $896 million. And that's okay. Again, not enough to buy a Candy Crush.
Yeah, that's
but
really not huge. It's amazing that they have so many users, and I don't know. I just find Facebook so boring.
yeah.
But
Well, you just don't have good friends. You need better friends,
so.
my friend. Facebook now sees $8 billion daily video views.
Well, those are fake. They autoplay videos.
Oh yeah, you're right. We shouldn't count that number. You watch for a second. You watch as you scroll by.
You scroll by.
Now,
Like,
Leo,
oh, view.
in fairness, I believe the cutoff is 2 seconds.
Oh well, let's be fair. But they did put a lot of money to R&D and so forth. So
The thing that freaks me out about Facebook, in addition to their user base, is the fact is two separate facts. One of them is they're doing the AOL model. They're trying to duplicate the internet, so you never have to go on the regular internet. You can live on Facebook, get the news on Facebook, get your video on Facebook, get everything on Facebook.
AOL.
And the second thing is they're immune from the laws of nature. They're the only major social network that still has a real names policy. They're total jerks about it. It's a very biased and bigoted policy, and there's no consequence
my friend,
for them.
Are You Serious is really upset because even though his Facebook name is his real name is Ken Goffman, nobody's ever known him for that. He founded Mondo 2000. He's an internet pioneer. In fact, as he pointed out in a letter to Mark Zuckerberg, hey, brat, I created that thing you call social media. Without me, you're nothing. They won't let him use Ken, Are You Serious Goffman. He has to just be plain old Ken Goffman.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yep.
I understand. We've talked a lot about anonymity is what fosters trolls. I understand it's desirable to have people use their real names.
But they don't need it. They just need pseudonymity. They should establish a process whereby you have to tell Facebook what your real name is.
Isn't that, though, what they say? They say you're commonly accepted, the name people know you by. It doesn't have to be a real name, just the name people. But you had somebody on TNT today who they made him divide or was that G+, had to divide his name into 2 names.
That's right. He was
or whatever.
Exactly. That was Google. He was complaining about Google's real names policy.
Same thing.
Right. But the problem isn't that what their rules are. It's not what Facebook says. It's what they do.
Right.
They don't actually have a real names policy. They have a normal names policy. So if I could right now just create a new Facebook account and I could call myself Leo Laporte, and they say, fine, that sounds like a real name. But if I call myself something that sounds like it was a made-up name, or it sounds like a Native American name, or
if you have a Native
foreign
American
name or whatever, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So it's not about they don't have any way to tell if it's your real name. They just want it to be normal, which means a Eurocentric name or a commonly held name.
Sad.
It's and nobody cares. This is the thing that bugs me. They're immune to the pressure around this. Every other social network is because they have a monopoly on everybody.
Right.
They have such a network effect that they can do anything.
Yeah.
Facebook can do anything they want, and you see people complain about new Facebook features all the time, but it doesn't matter because all your friends are there.
They didn't add search until last week.
Right.
And you tell people, they don't even have search, and people are like, whatever.
Who cares?
All my high school friends are there. All my former coworkers are there. All my family's there. Who cares about search?
No, you're right. In fact, kids, I was talking to high school kids. They know very well that their Facebook profile will be searched when they get into the real world. So they use a different name for either they use a different name for their high school profile, or then when they get a grown-up, they change their name to something else.
Yeah.
And that works. Facebook doesn't stop that.
And then they put phony posts
for
the family to see on Facebook, and then they run off to Snapchat and do their real communication.
Right. Oh, well. Okay. We can go on and on about how bad Facebook is, but it doesn't matter. We're all still using it.
Yes.
I quit it once, but I realized as a tech journalist, you can't not use Facebook.
That's right. Yep.
That's here we are talking about it. That's a huge part of the story, like it or not.
Yep.
But now I realize that's how everybody feels. Nobody wants to be on Facebook. You just can't not be on Facebook.
It's like the phone system.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I have a small business, but we're not going to have phones. We're not going to have a phone number. You can't reach it. No, you can't do that.
I love Elon Musk's quote. He says, soon, not having an autonomous vehicle will be like riding a horse.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's true.
Like having a horse and buggy. Let's take a break. When we come back, would you like to do picks of the week?
I would.
That sort of thing, your
very
tips?
much so.
Sure.
I'll show you a little more about what Android looks like on Windows. But first, word from lynda.com. We love lynda.com. It's a great place to go to learn. And I presume that you love to learn. You've got a big brain, obviously. You wouldn't be watching and listening to our shows. And I think you probably come here because you learn. Well, that's why Lynda's so great. Lynda lets you learn what you need to know in a variety of fields. A lot of technology, but also business and creative skills. More than 3,000 beautifully, professionally produced videos with teachers who work in the field and have a real passion. So it's not going to be your boring high school teacher droning on and on about how to use Microsoft Word. It's going to be an exciting, interesting, dynamic, beautifully shot video that will teach you what you need to know, whether it's what you want to take better photos, develop an app, master Excel, sharpen your SEO skills, or algorithmically changing the art of games. Wow. Now I want to take that course. That looks awesome. I want you to visit. If you are a problem solver, if you're curious, if you want to make things happen, you want to get a better job or keep your job, or you just want to have some fun, this is a great place to go. Lynda's courses, new courses include communications tips. They have a lot of business skills. Creating a business plan, executive decision-making, sales management fundamentals, and avoiding burnout. They have a weekly series called Monday Productivity Pointers. Each installment gives you a quick tip on a tool that will help you run your life and business more efficiently. I like I tend to go, one of the nice things about Lynda is your monthly fee covers just everything. So you don't have to choose what you want to watch. You can watch a little here, a little there. And it is really fun to browse around and see what's out there, learn a thing or two. I tend to watch, though, the photography / Lightroom / Photoshop stuff. Burt Monroy is so great. I can't miss his Pixel Playground, and all the stuff he does is so great. But then I also go into the coding area. And I'm not, coding for me is not a business. It's just for fun. And so I love it because I can just dip in and watch a little bit here, a little bit there. Now, if you really want to learn something, you can also take it from beginning to end. You get to do what suits you. You learn the way you want to from the best in the business. Take a 10-day free trial so you just get an idea of what's available at lynda.com. There's Ben Long teaching photography basics. He's so good. So good. Lynda, lynda.com/twig. That's it. That's all you have to do. You get 10 days free. It's kind of fun just browsing around and finding, I think that's what you did, Jace, just finding weird, courses on the strangest things.
Hop into a category,
It's fun.
see what comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With over 3,000 courses, there's just a ton of stuff there. Lynda.com. We thank them so much for their support. I think it's a natural relationship between Twit and Twig and Lynda.com. Ron, do you have a pick of the week for us?
Yeah, this is a podcast called Design Notes. It's designnotes.fm. It's from Liam Spradlin, who works at Android Police and does a bunch of other stuff. But it's a podcast about design, usually designing Android apps and talking to people that design applications and kind of what tools they use and how they go about.
Oh, that sounds great.
Coming up with these new interfaces. If you go down, the one that was October 1st was with Roman Nurek, who works at Google. It was really interesting talking about that one. It was really interesting hearing them talk about what kind of he uses internally as a guy that works at Google, and how he kind of does design advocacy for other for third parties and stuff like that. It's one of those areas that doesn't really get talked about a lot. Like you can read Android news from anybody till you're blue in the face, but not too many people go into design. And like Liam is an actual designer. Like he works on Nova Launcher and all sorts of other apps. So it's very interesting.
Oh, here's the guy who did Nova Launcher.
Yeah.
And kind of coincidentally, this week's episode is with the designer Feedly, Arthur Bottleneck. So there you go. Cool. Oh, I'm going to have to listen to this. That's a great pick, Ron. Thank you. And you know what? It's amazing. He keeps them to all about an hour. I don't know how he does that. I got to learn that skill. Maybe they'll have a Lynda class on that. Keeping podcasts to 1 hour. Never
Step one, buy a clock.
Buy a clock. I have so many clocks. The staff has provided me with clocks everywhere, and I still ignore them. Because I'm a rebel.
And they embed SoundCloud stuff there, but it's on iTunes and all sorts of all the usual podcast stuff.
Oh, good. All right. I actually like SoundCloud. It makes it very easy to play right on the page there and all that. Your pick of the week, Mike Elgin?
Well, we all suffer from the problem of internet distractions. The internet is very distracting, and from an evolutionary perspective, it's evolving, become ever more distracting. Meanwhile, we feeble, puny humans do not evolve accordingly to resist said distractions, and therefore we need technology to help us with that. And I'm recommending today a Chrome extension called Dayboard. Now, Dayboard helps you survive distractions, and here's how it enables you to do that. It replaces the new tab whenever you open a new tab in Chrome.
All right.
So you see it every time, and it gives you the opportunity to have 5 to-do items. So we all have to-do items. There's probably hundreds of items, but really you're not going to do hundreds of items today.
No.
You'll be lucky to do 3 items, maybe. So what this does is you can put exactly 5 items on your Dayboard new tab interface. It's very clean and clear. You can click it to cross it out if you've done it. And every time you open it, you get distracted. You're like, look, a squirrel, and you go off to the internet to check something out. First thing you do is open a new tab.
Reminds you.
Oh yeah,
I
got the TPS reports to do and all that other stuff. It also has if you really want to get crazy with it, it's got a view that just shows you the first item. And so every time you open a new tab, it's in very large letters. Do this. And it's a great way to stay on track. Now, if you don't complete all the items, it forwards the uncompleted items to the next day. So the next morning you open it up and there's the stuff you didn't do yesterday. It runs offline. So if you're on an airplane, if you're using Chrome or Chrome OS, it will be there for you. And they've also got a team version coming. So if you've got a team, you can set up this whole team thing and you can look at what other people are working on today. And it has other sophisticated things. But forget all that. Right now, it's great the way it is because it will show you those 5 items. And I've introduced this to half a dozen people, and every single one of them loves it because the psychology of constantly being reminded, not having to go find where is my list, it's always coming up. It's always popping up because you're always opening up new tabs. Dayboard, search for it on the Chrome extensions site, and you will find it very, very productivity-inducing.
I use a Wunderlist for my to-do list, and they also do the same thing on a fresh tab, but it could be a very long list. So this seems like a good, maybe an alternate way of doing this. Dayboard, it's free. It's a Chrome extension. So I guess my pick is something I already talked about, but just a little more information on Duos or AMI Duos from AMI. Remember AMI, American Megatrends? They did the BIOSes.
Yep.
For all the old PCs. They have done a Windows 7 Android emulator. There's 2 versions. There's one that comes, I'm not sure why, with, is it Ice Cream Sandwich? It comes with an old version. No, Jelly Bean. And then there's one for version 2.0 that comes with Lollipop. It's not upgradable with the standard updaters, so it's like Lollipop 5.0.1. But that's fine. And it also does not come with the Google apps, but they point you to where to download it and add it, and it's a simple thing to add it. And when you do that, now you have pretty much on a Windows machine an Android device. So I actually I installed all the apps were on my Nexus 6, including Nova Launcher, my file launcher, and 500px screens, live wallpaper. So I always have my beautiful wallpaper. All the apps are on here. And as I showed you, it pretty much works just like Android. I mean, with a lot of space, as if Android were on a massive phone. But I think the number one use for me now is playing video games. Fallout Shelter plays great on this. So do most of the apps. In fact, almost all the apps run just fine. It is an emulator. I don't feel like it's particularly slow. It just sort of hung up on me. Well, look, what do you want? This is better than BlueStacks. BlueStacks, it was very limited in what it could run. I think I made a mistake pressing that button. I think I praised it.
And you are pushing it about as hard as you can push it on that 3,200 by whatever
Yeah.
screen.
You can't really get a bigger. Oh, I see. It's downloading the latest
Yeah,
Instagram.
that's the highest res Windows device on Earth.
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think for developers, this would be a great way to try out your Android apps. If there's an Android app you want to use that you can't get working on Windows, maybe Netflix, or I don't know, there's just something that you would like to have. It all works here. Meerkat. Oh, actually, camera apps don't work, at least on this Surface Book. They may work on some Windows devices. There's probably something about the driver situation.
Is it Windows only?
It is Windows only, 7, 8, or 10. They don't have a Mac version. It's pretty wild. I mean, just to see these apps on a high-res screen is pretty amazing.
Easily the most expensive Android tablet.
Well, the good news is the software is free for 30 days and $15 if you want to buy it. So it's not horrifically expensive. I always wanted to be able to run particularly Android games on here because there's no now. Of course, I can run many of them on my Android TV, but this is kind of wild. You know, crossword puzzles, all of that stuff. Pretty crazy. It's free to try for 30 days, and the website is amiduos.com. It's Amiduos, I guess. How do you think you'd pronounce that? Amiduos.
Nobody knows.
No one knows. Actually, after playing with this a little bit, I've invited the CEO of AMI onto Triangulation, so we're going to talk to him about this program. Gary Vaynerchuk, by the way, Monday on Triangulation. And the following week, Larry Wall, the creator of Pearl, will join us. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Cool.
Ron Amadio is at Ars Technica. He's a must-read if you are into Android. He's the guy. I mean, he's just basically the guy. Did you ever update your on-hub review? Or it's basically the same, your thoughts?
They haven't done much in the way. There's been like one software update, I think, that kind of changed the way Wi-Fi worked, but nothing super significant worth writing about. I tried that crazy. Somebody rooted it a couple weeks ago.
Turned it into a Chromebook. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get that.
I wouldn't worry
working
about that.
Exactly.
How about now they have a new one.
The Asus.
Built by Asus
yeah, right.
instead of TP-Link. But it was because of your review that I canceled my on-hub purchase. It hadn't been shipped yet, and I instead bought an Asus AC3200, and it's super fast. It's a great router. I'm so happy. And with far more functionality than the on-hub had.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to buy an on-hub today.
Yeah.
It's someday maybe it will be useful, but not right now.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why you got to read, Ron. ArsTechnica.com.
So next week's going to be crazy, man. We've got I will probably end up doing a BlackBerry Priv review, whatever. The new BlackBerry, the OnePlus X.
Oh, that looks nice. Did you get the ceramic?
I don't know. It's not here yet.
I would love to get the ceramic one.
I'm hoping this happens by next week.
Yeah.
And they're going to show off the Tag Cure. The Android Wear Watch from Intel and Google. Like, it's going to be an Intel chip on your wrist, and it's $1,800.
Wow.
Expensive.
So the most expensive Android Wear Watch. So that will all be on Ars Technica at some point. I'm not going to have a review of the watch. I'm still working on that. But
And that's what happens when you don't have 50 people working at a blog. But boy, I tell you, Ars Technica is a must-read. Yep. And one of the things that you did, that you offer, is a paid version, which I immediately took you up on, and I've been a paid subscriber to Ars Technica, I think, for a couple of years now.
Oh, thanks. There's big plans in the works for things, redesigns, and subscriber things.
Don't redesign it too much. I kind of like the staid. It's like the New York Times of tech blogs. It's very staid. And
that's very old. That page. Ooh.
Oof. Oofta.
But yeah, there's stuff happening.
I like it. Andrew Cunningham's Apple TV review. Yeah, we love Ars Technica. I always felt like ours was the closest to what we do in terms of point of view and sensibility, and I flatter ourselves quality of content. You guys do the best stuff. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
Great to have you.
Anytime.
Mike Gilligan, he's here every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC for Tech News Today, our daily morning news show.
It's like crack. It's very addictive.
It is. And you know what I love is that feature at the end, How I Watch Tech News Today.
Yeah.
People watch you in all sorts of weird and interesting places.
Do. Yes, they do. And sometimes sorry, my phone is going off here. Yeah, they do. And people take pictures or, boomerangs. They take a lot of boomerangs and stuff like that.
Oh, that's fun. Boomerangs now? Good.
And surprisingly, there are a lot of dogs that watch TNT.
Yeah.
Notice that?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Get your advertisers on that.
The dog whistle. Actually, we had a BarkBox advertisement. I just got a box in the mail from somebody else. Maybe we have a new advertiser in the wings. So tune in every Monday through Friday for Mr. Mike Elgin. I'm Leo Laporte. Thank you for joining us. We do Twig right after Windows Weekly on Wednesdays, about 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. That'd be 21:30 UTC at twit.tv/live or now on your, as you mentioned this morning, on your Apple TV. There's
Apple
not
TV.
one, not two, but 3 Apple TV Twit apps.
that's right.
Which I am so grateful to, all developed by our fans, and we are so glad that you did. Pick the one you like. They're all equally good. And watch us on the big screen. Or download a copy. You can do that in those apps and everywhere you get podcasts. Stitcher, of course, and the podcast app on your favorite device. Just look for This Week in Google Twig. Next week, Gina Trapani joins us. We'll see you then. Thanks to Jason Howell, our producer. I'm Leo Laporte. Have a great day. Bye.